The Widow Who Waited. The wind on Trailus 9 was dry and sharp. Dust danced across the broken roads and empty homes. A human man, known only as Grayson, stepped out of his small ship. He had come alone. Salvaging old tech was his job. He didn't care for politics or people. He liked silence, but as he walked through the ruins of the alien village, he felt eyes watching him. Something, or someone, was hiding. He glanced left, then right. The buildings were hollow. Nothing moved. Still, that strange feeling remained. Later, as Grayson sat near a small fire outside his ship cleaning his tools, he noticed something across the road. A figure. Not close. Not moving. Just standing. A thin alien woman in old rags. Her long cloak blew gently in the wind. Behind her, two small children clung to her legs, silent, afraid like shadows. Grayson said nothing. He didn't invite them over. He didn't wave, but he didn't stop looking either. The woman stayed for a moment longer, then turned away and disappeared into the dark. The next night, Grayson was tightening a bolt on a heavy power coil when he heard soft footsteps. He turned. The woman was there. She held no weapon. Only her hands were visible, open, shaking slightly. Her children were not with her this time. "I'm sorry," she said in broken English. "I had to speak to you alone." Grayson stood still, unsure what to say. "My name is Ryla. I am a widow." She paused, swallowing hard. "I have nothing, no food, no help, only my children. But they are good, quiet. They will not trouble you." Grayson raised an eyebrow. Still silent, Ryla stepped closer. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. If you take us, I will be your wife. I can clean, work, cook if you teach me. I only ask, please don't leave us here." Grayson blinked, stunned. She wasn't begging for food or credits. She was offering herself, her life, for a future. He looked at her face closely. Tired, yes. Dirty, yes. But not broken. There was a strange strength behind her pale blue eyes. Still, he said nothing. "I won't shame you," she said quickly. "My kind are hated now, but I swear I'll obey. My children too, just don't let them starve." Grayson slowly sat down on a crate. His tools fell into his lap. He didn't even notice. Why him? Why ask him? He was no hero, no soldier. Just a scavenger. She dropped to her knees. "Please," she said again, voice breaking now. "Please." For the first time, Grayson saw her tears. Not loud sobs, just quiet, shaking tears of someone who had begged too many times and was almost out of hope. The wind blew again. This time colder. He opened his mouth to speak. But then, "Mama," a soft voice called. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, ran out from behind the wall. Grayson turned quickly, ready for trouble. But it was just her. A child. Skinny, quiet, clutching something in her hands. She ran to Ryla and held up a string with small bones and beads. "I made it for him," she whispered, pointing to the human. Ryla looked scared. "No, Nira, don't." But the girl walked forward and placed the necklace at Grayson's feet. "I heard you fix things," she said. "Maybe you can fix us too." Grayson stared at her. She was small, too small, probably hadn't eaten properly in weeks. He slowly picked up the necklace. The beads were simple, some cracked, but made with care. "Thank you," he said softly. Nira smiled. Behind her, Ryla looked away, ashamed of her daughter's boldness. "I'll think about it," Grayson finally said. Ryla looked up, confused. "I don't make promises," he added. "Not until I know more." "Of course," she nodded quickly. "Anything. Ask anything. Test us. Just don't turn us away." Grayson stood, put the necklace around his wrist, and looked toward the dark sky. He didn't know what he was doing, but for some reason turning his back on them now felt wrong. He didn't like that feeling. Still, he said nothing else. Ryla nodded, took Nira's hand, and backed away. "We will stay nearby," she said. Grayson watched them go. The dust rose behind their steps. That night, he didn't sleep much. Her words echoed in his head. "My children are quiet. I can be a good wife. Just don't leave us here." Grayson heard something in the distance. Footsteps? No. Scratching. Near her shelter. He grabbed his tool blade. Something was moving toward them, in the dark, and he wasn't sure it was friendly. The sky was still dark when Grayson stepped out with his blade in hand. The sound he had heard, scraping, low growling, was coming from the ruins near the widow's shelter. He moved fast but quiet, boots crunching over broken stone. He found her standing in front of her children, arms wide like wings. Her body was shaking, but she did not move. Something big with glowing yellow eyes was crawling from the shadows. Not a beast, worse, a scavenger, one of the desperate ones. It hissed. "The human pays well, but he won't save you, widow." Grayson didn't wait. He struck with his blade fast and clean. The scavenger screeched and ran, blood trailing behind. Ryla stared at him. You came." "I'm not deaf," he said simply. She fell to her knees, breathing hard. Her kids rushed to her, Nira crying softly. The boy stayed quiet, eyes wide. "You okay?" Grayson asked. Ryla nodded. "They come sometimes, looking for things to steal." He looked at her. "Or someone to take." She didn't answer, just lowered her head. Grayson sighed. "Come to my camp." Ryla hesitated. "You said you don't trust strangers." "I don't. But I hate cowards more." By sunrise, they sat by his small fire. Ryla wrapped her children in an old emergency blanket. She held her son close. He had not spoken once. "What's his name?" Grayson asked. Ryla smiled sadly. "Kilo. He was born on a ship. My husband named him. Said he would fly one day." Grayson said nothing. She looked at him. "You want to know why I begged you? Why I offered myself like that?" He didn't answer. But he listened. She nodded slowly and spoke. "My kind used to live with pride," she said. "We built cities in the sky. But then the war came. Not lasers and bombs, just silence. No jobs, no food. Ships stopped coming, and my people," her voice cracked, "they started selling. Not goods, not tech. People." Grayson narrowed his eyes. "My husband worked in the mines. When the roof fell, they told me he was lucky to die quickly. They gave me 2 credits and sent me away." She rubbed her arm where an old burn scar still showed. "I tried to work. Clean. Repair. But they only wanted younger ones. Pretty ones. I had 2 kids and no value." Nira was half asleep now, leaning on her mother's shoulder. Kilo clutched her tightly, still watching Grayson. "So I came here," Ryla said. "Dead land. No laws. Just ghosts and people like you." "I'm not like them," Grayson said coldly. "I know," she replied. "You didn't shoot me. You didn't turn your back. That's already more than anyone else did." He looked away. "I didn't offer myself because I wanted to," she said. "I did it because it was all I had left." There was a long silence. Only the sound of the fire. Then Nira whispered, "Mama says you have good hands." Grayson blinked. "What?" She said, "You fix things. Not just machines, maybe people too." Grayson almost smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Later, as Ryla cleaned the camp quietly, Grayson handed her a heat pack. "You don't have to scrub the walls," he said. "I need to be useful," she replied. The kids ate warmed protein, bars like it was a feast. Grayson sat across from them, watching. "I'll be leaving in 4 days," he said flatly. Ryla froze. "I have a route, jobs, a life." "I understand," she said softly. Nira looked up. "Can we come too?" Grayson didn't answer. "I can clean, fix. Kilo listens well, he never makes a sound." Grayson shook his head. "I don't need a family." Ryla's voice dropped. Then take us as tools, as crew, anything, just not as graves in this dirt. He stood and walked away. That night, he couldn't sleep again. He looked at the charm Nira gave him, the small beads, the uneven knots, and he thought of Kilo, silent but watching. He remembered the scavenger's words, "He won't save you." But Grayson had saved her. He could have walked away. He didn't. The next morning, Ryla didn't come out. Grayson waited. Then he knocked gently on the metal door of her shelter. No answer. He opened it and found her inside, holding Kilo. Nira was sitting by a small candle, drawing in the dirt. "What's wrong?" he asked. Ryla looked up slowly. "I don't want to beg again," she said. "If you say no, I'll still thank you. But if there is even a small chance—" Grayson stared at her, then at the kids, then at the floor. "You don't have to beg," he said quietly. She looked confused. "I haven't decided yet, but if I leave, I'll let you choose." "Choose what?" she asked. "To stay behind or to come?" Grayson handed her an old bracelet, an Earth military tag. "My sister used to wear this. She always helped those no one else would." Ryla took it slowly. What happened to her? Grayson's face turned hard. She trusted the wrong people, and with that he walked out, leaving her holding the only piece of his past. Grayson heard the scream just after midnight. It cut through the cold air like a knife. He grabbed his blade and ran toward the sound, toward the shelter where Ryla and her children slept. When he got there, the door was broken open. Nira was crying. Ryla was on the ground, bruised, trying to stand between her children and two masked aliens. Scavengers again. One of them had a stun rod. The other was grabbing her arm. "You think you can hide from us?" one growled. "You think the human protects you?" Grayson didn't speak. He moved, fast. His blade sank into the back of the first attacker before the alien could turn. The second one swung the rod. It hit Grayson's arm hard, but the human didn't stop. He slammed the second attacker into the wall with raw fury. The fight was over in seconds. Grayson stood there, breathing hard, his eyes wild. Blood dripped from his hand. Ryla looked up at him in shock. "You came again," she whispered. He looked at her wounds. Her lip was cut, one eye already swelling. "I should have killed them slower," he muttered. He helped her up and checked the children. Kilo had a bruise on his shoulder, but he didn't cry. Nira held tightly to her mother's waist. Grayson's voice was low. "We can't stay here." Ryla nodded. By morning, they had moved to a small cave near the salvage ship. Ryla worked quietly to make the space livable. She laid a blanket for the kids and used scrap metal to block the wind. Grayson wrapped his injured arm and said nothing. Later, Ryla sat beside him while the kids slept. She stared at the fire. "Why do you keep helping me?" Grayson didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "Because I know what it feels like." "To be alone?" she asked. He nodded. "To scream, and no one comes." Ryla looked down at her hands. "They used to call us proud," she whispered. "Now they call us pests. I used to dream of growing old with my mate. Now I just dream of keeping my kids alive." Grayson looked at her. "You said you were a good wife." "I was," she said quietly. "I still can be. I don't need a wife." She smiled a little. "Maybe you need something else. Something you don't realize yet." He stared at the flames, lost in thought. That afternoon, Grayson went to the wrecked market ruins to find medical supplies. He came back with food, a fresh blanket, and a strange small box. Ryla watched him open it. Inside was a music cube, damaged but working. He clicked it. Soft notes began to play. A simple melody, gentle. Nira clapped her hands. Kilo smiled. Ryla blinked quickly and turned her face away. "You fixed it?" she asked. Grayson nodded. "It's nothing." "No," she said, voice shaking. "It's everything." That night they sat closer than before, not touching, but not far. Grayson told her about Earth, about the cities that touched the sky, about rain that smelled clean, about machines that sang. She told him about her home before it fell, about fruit that glowed under moonlight and dances that lasted all night. They didn't talk about war, or death, or pain, only memories, only hope. At midnight, Ryla stepped outside the cave. Grayson followed her. She looked at the stars. I used to pray to those lights. And now? She looked at him. I talked to you instead. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't say anything. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw something he hadn't seen in years. Trust. The next morning, Grayson found Kilo sitting beside his blade, polishing it. Where did you learn to do that? Grayson asked. Kilo looked up and pointed to a small metal figure. It was a broken toy soldier Grayson had tossed aside. I watch, the boy said softly. It was the first time Grayson had heard his voice. Later, Ryla handed him a small package. Inside was a worn cloth. She said, It belonged to my husband. He'd want it to protect you now. Grayson looked at the cloth, old but strong. Thank you, he said. She touched his arm gently. For everything. But peace doesn't last long on Trelos 9. That evening, Grayson's comm unit blinked. A message from the trade ship above. Last pickup in 36 hours. Final call. No delays. He stared at the screen, then at Ryla playing with her children. He had a choice to make. That night, Grayson sat alone on a hill thinking. Ryla came and sat beside him, quiet. Then she said softly, If you leave, I won't stop you. But I hope you know, we've already started calling you ours. Grayson didn't reply, but his hand slowly moved and took hers. Grayson stood in the salvage ship's tiny kitchen, staring at the ration packs. He had never shared his food before, but tonight felt different. He didn't just want to feed them, he wanted to give them something real. He opened a pack of earth spices, old, but still fragrant. He boiled water and dropped in protein cubes, crushed roots, and a bit of powdered broth. It wasn't much, but it smelled warm. Comforting. He carried the pot to the cave and set it on a flat stone. The children's eyes lit up. Ryla blinked. This is... for us? Grayson nodded. Hot food. Sit. They sat. Quiet. Grateful. Kilo waited until Ryla nodded. Then he reached in slowly. Nira giggled as steam rose up and tickled her nose. Grayson watched them eat. It was the first time he saw all three of them smile at once. After dinner, Ryla wiped her mouth with the cloth he'd given her. She looked at Grayson, her voice soft. Back when I had a home, we used to eat by a river. My husband would catch glowing fish. Kilo was just a baby. Grayson nodded. I remember rivers too. Earth ones. Cold. Strong. Ryla lowered her head. The last time we had real food was the day he died. That night I buried a bowl in the dirt with his name carved. On it, Grayson blinked. A grave? She nodded. Yes. He believed no one is truly gone if someone eats in their memory. Grayson looked down at his hands. He remembered his sister's laugh, her tiny tools, her stubborn fire. She said that too, he muttered. Ryla looked at him. Your sister? He nodded once. What happened? She helped the wrong people, he said. Trusted them. They used her. Then left her to die on a frozen moon. I found her ship too late. I'm sorry, she whispered. He said nothing. But Ryla quietly took one bowl and scooped a little of the stew back into it. She whispered something in her own language, placed it near the fire and bowed her head. For your sister, she said. Grayson didn't speak, but his jaw tightened and his eyes looked away. The next day, Grayson took Ryla and the children into the ruins. Why are we here? She asked. You wanted to be useful. I want to see what you can do. He pointed to a broken panel of a crashed transport. Can you help me pull the wires out without damaging the cores? Ryla nodded quickly. She worked beside him, careful and quick. Her hands knew what to do. She didn't speak unless needed. She didn't waste a single motion. Grayson was impressed. Even Kilo helped, holding tools and watching silently. Nira followed with a small box, picking up loose parts. Grayson looked at them and realized this wasn't a burden. It was a crew. Team? A family? He shook the thought away. Back at the ship, Grayson watched the comm screen again. Final pickup. 18 hours. He turned it off. That night, he sharpened his blade and cleaned the ship's controls. Ryla walked in quietly. "You're thinking about leaving," she said. He didn't deny it. "I won't beg again," she added. "But I need you to understand. If you go, we'll stay. We won't chase you. But you'll carry our faces forever." Grayson looked at her. "I don't know how to be a husband," he said. Ryla stepped closer. "Then be what you are. A protector. A man who keeps his word. That's more than enough." Nira came in with a flower. Old, wilted, but still a flower. She handed it to Grayson. "Mama said only humans used to give flowers." Grayson took it carefully. "She's not wrong." Nira smiled. "You're kind. I hope we go with you." She ran back out. Ryla watched him. "You say you're not ready. But my daughter already trusts you. My son already copies you, and I—" She stopped herself. "What?" he asked. "I already feel safer near you than I ever did with anyone else." Grayson looked away. But he didn't move. That night, Grayson sat outside the cave alone. The sky was full of stars. He held the flower in one hand, the necklace in the other. He thought of his sister, of her laughter, of her last words. Protect someone. Make your life count. He closed his eyes. Inside the ship, a red light blinked. Unauthorized movement. Perimeter alert. Grayson rushed to the screen. 3 life signs, moving fast, toward the cave, armed, scavengers, again. But this time, they were coming with fire, and Grayson was ready to give them hell. The cave was quiet. Too quiet. Grayson moved fast, his blade on his belt and a rifle in hand. The ship's scanner showed 3 figures closing in. Not wild beasts, scavengers. Armed, trained. He ran toward the cave, heart pounding. As he neared, he saw the orange glow of a torch, then shouting, then the first explosion. Smoke filled the entrance as Grayson dove behind a rock. He heard Nira scream. "Stay down!" he shouted. Another blast rocked the side wall. Stones tumbled. Then he saw one of them, a scavenger in dark armor. Not some weak thief. This one had real weapons. They wanted to hurt them, to take them, not while he breathed. Grayson moved without thinking. He slid across the dirt and fired his rifle. One shot struck the torch, plunging everything into smoke and shadow. He heard panic. One attacker yelled, "He's here!" Grayson grabbed a rock and threw it far left. The sound distracted the enemy, just enough. He jumped from the side and tackled the nearest scavenger. They fought hard, but Grayson fought harder, with fire, with purpose. For them. Ryla pulled the children behind a heavy crate inside the cave. She wrapped Kilo and Nira in her arms. "We're okay," she whispered. "He came back, he always comes back." The cave shook again. This time silence followed, moments passed. Then through the smoke, Grayson walked in. Blood on his shirt, a cut above his eye, breathing heavy, but alive. He dropped the rifle. "They won't come back." Ryla stood and reached for him, but stopped. Grayson looked at her, his eyes tired. "You all right?" She nodded. "You saved us again." He knelt near the children. "You two okay?" Kilo looked him in the eyes and nodded, then did something he hadn't done before. He hugged Grayson, tight. Grayson froze, then gently placed a hand on the boy's back. Something in him cracked. Later, Ryla cleaned the cut on his face. Her fingers were soft. "You don't have to stay," she said. "But if you leave, I want you to tell me now." He looked at her. I wasn't sure, he said. And now, I don't know what kind of man I am anymore, he whispered. But I know this: when I thought they might hurt you, I wanted to kill. She nodded slowly. Because we matter to you. He didn't answer, but he didn't need to. The next morning, the ship's alarm beeped again. Pickup arrives in 6 hours. Final chance to leave. Ryla packed what little she had. She said nothing, but her hands trembled. Nira clung to her leg. Kilo sat quietly, holding the flower Grayson gave her. Grayson stared at the ship. The keys in his hand felt heavy. He remembered his sister again. He remembered her voice, her dreams. He remembered losing her because no one came to help. And now, he had helped, but was that enough? Ryla finally broke the silence. If you go, I'll survive. I always have. He didn't turn around. But if you go, she continued, I need you to understand something. He turned now. She stepped closer, her voice shaking. We don't need a hero. We don't need your food. We just need you. Grayson stared at her. I've done things, he said. Bad things. You don't know what I've seen. She stepped even closer. I've seen worse, and I still choose you. Nira pulled on his sleeve. Are we going with you? Grayson knelt. You want to? She nodded fast. You're not scary anymore. Kilo walked over. He didn't say anything, just held up the old military bracelet Grayson had given Ryla. He was wearing it now. Grayson's throat tightened. Finally, he looked at Ryla. I'm not perfect, he said. She smiled. Neither are we, he breathed out, then nodded once. Inside the ship, Ryla placed the children in the back seat and buckled them in like it was a ritual. She didn't ask where they were going. Anywhere was better than where they had been. Grayson powered up the engines. The ship hummed to life. As the ship rose into the sky, the cave grew smaller in the distance. Dust swirled below them. Graves, ashes, forgotten bones. And then, nothing. Just stars ahead. Hours later, as the children slept, Ryla sat beside Grayson in the cockpit. She held a warm mug he made for her. Earth cocoa mixed with old water, still better than anything she'd tasted in years. She looked at him. I still meant it, you know, she said softly. Meant what? That I can be a good wife. Grayson looked at her, silent. I don't want your pity. I want your hand, she said. Grayson reached forward and slowly, silently took hers. For the first time, his grip didn't shake. The stars outside the ship's window were calm, peaceful. But inside Grayson's chest, a storm was rising. They had left the cave, left the fires, left the pain, but they hadn't left the danger. The ship's systems were old. The engines groaned, and as they rose through the sky, warning lights blinked on the panel. Fuel pressure low. Hull damage detected. Grayson muttered under his breath and hit the panel hard. It didn't stop blinking. In the back of the ship, Ryla wrapped her children in thick blankets. Kilo was asleep. Nira curled into her side. She looked at Grayson through the hallway. You said we were safe, she said. I said we were gone, Grayson replied. Didn't say how smooth the ride would be. He didn't want to scare her, but he also didn't lie. Then without warning, the ship shuddered, hard. An alarm screamed. System breach. Hull leak detected. Grayson jumped up and ran to the control. Panel. A storm, not in space, but in the atmosphere. A magnetic lightning field. I forgot how unstable the upper sky was on this planet, he muttered. We're going to crash? Ryla asked, eyes wide. No, he said quickly. Not if I fix it in time. She grabbed his arm. Let me help. No, stay with the kids. I won't lose you now, she said firmly. Grayson hesitated, then nodded once. They reached the engine room. Smoke filled the air. A pipe had burst and wires sparked like angry snakes. Grayson pulled on gloves and grabbed his toolkit. Hold that valve, he shouted. Ryla did it without flinching, even as her hands burned from the heat. Grayson connected 2 wires and sealed the line. But the engine still roared. Not in power. In pain. The lights flickered. Grayson pulled out the manual override. "It's not enough," he muttered. "We need more power to get through the storm layer." "Can we land and wait it out?" Ryla asked. "No. The scavengers will be tracking our trail." She looked down. "Then what?" Grayson stared at the engine. "There's one emergency battery. Outside the ship." "Outside?" He nodded. "It's under the wing. Was supposed to be for station dockings. If I hook it in manually, it might give us just enough push to break free of the storm." "Might. It could also fry the whole system." Without another word, Grayson grabbed his mask and stepped into the small exit chamber. Wind slammed against the ship. The clouds outside glowed with lightning. He opened the door and climbed out. Ryla watched from the small window, holding her breath. Grayson moved slowly, gripping the metal rails. His suit was thin, not meant for high winds. A bolt of lightning cracked nearby. He reached the battery panel and opened it. Sparks flew out. His gloves burned. He ignored the pain. He pulled the plug. Then attached a wire from his belt. Suddenly, a blast of wind. It knocked him back. His foot slipped. He grabbed the edge with one hand, dangling, barely holding on. Inside the ship, Ryla gasped. "Grayson!" she shouted. She wanted to run out there, but she couldn't leave the kids. Then, movement. He climbed back up, breath ragged, and shoved the wire into place. The ship gave a loud groan. Then, power stabilized. The engines roared louder, stronger. Grayson dropped back inside, chest heaving. Ryla ran to him, arms open. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I'm fine," he coughed. He wasn't, but he smiled anyway. "Did it work?" she asked. "We're climbing again. Just hold tight." They returned to the cockpit. The ship passed through the clouds. Bright lightning flashed all around them, but the hull held strong. The children clung to Ryla. Grayson gripped the controls. Then, light. Clear sky above. They broke through. Silence. Returned space. Real space. Ryla let out a long breath. Grayson leaned back in the chair, exhausted, but alive. They had made it. After a long pause, Grayson stood and walked to the back. He knelt beside Kilo and Nira. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. Kilo nodded. Nira smiled. "Are we in the stars now?" Grayson nodded. "We are." "Will we live there?" He looked at Ryla. "If you want to," he said. Ryla walked over and touched his face gently. "You didn't have to fight so hard for us." He looked her in the eyes. "I did." Later that night, as they drifted safely beyond orbit, Grayson received a signal. A voice on the comms, female, firm. "Unidentified human vessel, you are entering Alliance space. State your purpose and your cargo." Grayson looked back at Ryla and the children. He turned back to the screen and said clearly, "I'm not carrying cargo. I'm carrying my family." The voice crackled through the radio again. "Repeat, unknown vessel. What is your purpose?" Grayson stared at the blinking screen. His heart was steady now. He looked toward the back of the ship. Ryla was gently brushing Nira's hair. Kilo sat near the control panel, quietly sketching with an old stylus Grayson gave him. "Family." He pressed the button and spoke firmly. "My name is Grayson Ward. I'm a salvager from Earth. I'm not carrying cargo. I'm carrying my family." Silence followed. Then the voice changed. "Copy that, Mr. Ward. You are cleared for entry into Alliance space. Welcome home." Grayson sat back, letting out a long breath. Home. It was a word he hadn't used in years. Not since his sister died, not since he stopped believing in hope, but now he had something worth fighting for. The ship entered orbit near a small moon station. Grayson docked slowly. A soft click echoed through the hull as they connected to clean air. Lights inside the ship turned green. All safe. Ryla stood at the ship's door. Her hand shook slightly. "This is it?" she asked. Grayson nodded. "We can start fresh here." She looked at her children, then back at him. "Do they take in people like us? They'll take you because I'll stand in front of them if they don't." Ryla smiled softly. "You sound like a husband." Grayson paused, then stepped closer. "I don't have rings. I don't have vows." He touched her hand. "But if you'll have me, I'll be your man." Tears filled Ryla's eyes. She reached up and touched his face. "I already chose you," she said. "I chose you the moment you didn't turn away." Grayson looked down at the kids. Kilo was staring at him. Then, without a word, the boy stepped forward and hugged Grayson's leg tightly, not with fear, but trust. An hour later, they stepped into the clean white halls of the station. Guards stared, doctors whispered, an officer approached them. "Name and reason for docking?" Grayson replied calmly. "Medical help, supplies, and a future." The officer looked at Ryla's scars, her children's thin arms, and nodded. "You'll have to register them. They're not human." Grayson's voice sharpened. "They're mine." The officer blinked. Understood. They were given a room, small but warm, a bed, clean water, real food. Nira couldn't stop smiling. Kilo lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling like it was a dream. Ryla washed her hands 3 times. She whispered, "I forgot what clean water felt like." Grayson sat near the window, watching distant ships pass. That night, Grayson cooked for them again. Real earth noodles this time. They all sat together at the table. No caves, no fire, just warmth, just peace. After the meal, Ryla stood and walked to the small shelf. She placed something there, a tiny bowl, the one she had kept since her husband's death. She turned to Grayson. "May I?" He nodded. She poured a spoonful of food into the bowl and lit a small candle beside it. "For those who didn't make it," she said, "and for those we carry in our hearts." Grayson stepped beside her. He placed his sister's old bracelet next to the bowl, then whispered, "For her too." The next morning, Grayson walked into the station's main office. The man at the desk looked bored. "I need a family registration form," Grayson said. "Spouse? Children?" the officer asked without looking up. "Yes." "Documents?" Grayson pulled out a small chip. "I'm the only one with documents. The rest, they have my word." The officer looked up, annoyed, but something in Grayson's face made him stop. He handed over the form. Grayson filled in the names: Ryla Ward, Kilo Ward, Nira Ward, family. When he returned to the room, Ryla was teaching Nira how to fold a blanket. Kilo was sitting on Grayson's chair, pretending to fly the ship using buttons on a food tray. Grayson stood in the doorway and watched, then said quietly, "I signed the papers." Ryla turned. He held out a slip. It read, "Family Unit. Approved." Tears filled her eyes. She didn't say a word. She just walked over and hugged him. Later that day, they all stood together at the station's view deck. The stars stretched out, forever. But for the first time, they didn't look cold. They looked like possibility. Nira held Grayson's hand tightly. Kilo leaned against his leg. Ryla stood beside him, her head on his shoulder. He looked at all 3 of them and said softly, "We're not running anymore, we're living." A few months later, a new planet, a tiny home on the edge of a green field. Grayson is repairing a small generator. Nira is picking flowers. Kilo is learning to fix tools. Ryla is in the doorway, smiling, truly smiling, for the first time. She says, "Dinner's ready, husband." Grayson walks in, wipes his hands, and sits at the table. He looks around at the faces before him, his wife, his children, his life. He had nothing once, no family, no purpose, just metal and silence. Now, he had everything, and he'd fight the whole galaxy to protect it.